Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DFS Army Killshot podcast. I am Kyle Marley. With me is Dan Levy. We're here to break down this UFC Vegas 42 card from a DraftKings perspective, maybe hit on some bets as well. How you doing today, Dan?
Doing well, man. Braves World Series champs. Half the battle episode 400. So I'm chilling, man. I'm feeling great. What about yourself?
Awesome. I'm good as well. Congrats on the episode 400 on Half the Battle. It's a lot of episodes, a lot of talk time for sure. But glad to have you here. Hopefully, one day this podcast will get to 400 as well. But yeah, congrats on 400. Thank you to all the veterans out there. Happy Veterans Day. Thanks for your service. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for our freedom. And letting us do what we love to do, which is betting on MMA. And hopefully win some money this weekend and help you guys win as well. All right, let's start this card off with the first fight of the night. We got Da Jung. I believe he is about minus 120 versus Kennedy Nchukwu. He's around even money right now. Break this fight down for me for our curtain jerker.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a great fight. These guys are evenly matched. Da Jung, he's got solid hands. You saw in that last fight, his wrestling's improving. But with Kennedy, I kind of feel like, man, once this guy puts it together, he can make it to the top 15 because he's a freak athlete. He's just kind of green right now. And every fight you're seeing these slight improvements. You already know he's got the heart. I mean, this ain't a case like Edmund Shabazian where you just get past the first round, the kid's going to break. It's the opposite. Kennedy is a guy that will grit through these wins, but as soon as the technique starts to catch up, this guy's going to make big leaps. This guy's going to go far in the division, and I think he's catching Da Jung at the proper time now. So I think we're going to see, like I said, big improvements every fight from Kennedy, and at the underdog price, give me Kennedy to get it done.
I have to agree. I'm not picking too many underdogs on this card, but Kennedy is one. I mean, it wouldn't even shock me if he was a slight favorite in this matchup. I do think he's the better striker here. Has a lot more of improving to do, where I don't know how much improvement we'll see from Jung at this point. But I like Kennedy. I don't know. I just feel like he's so new to the game and he already looks good. I think he's a better striker of the two, looks more powerful on the feet. I would worry about him getting taken down. I also worry about him getting a high score on DraftKings if he doesn't get a knockout here, especially if he's spending time on his back at all. I think that's the path to victory for Da Jung is to mix in takedowns here, spend some time in top control. But I just don't see him scoring well. So I don't want much exposure to Jung, if any. And since Kennedy is one of like two dogs I'm picking on this card, I'll just naturally end up overweight to him. And I mean, I don't mind him in all formats. I guess Jung could get a knockout and give him a really low floor, but I feel like this fight goes to a decision. And if there is a knockout, I would take Kennedy to get that knockout. So for me, it's more so Kennedy or pass. I don't think we have to force this fight into lineups, but I will be over the field on Kennedy, I'm guessing, and maybe a full fade on Jung just because I'd rather target these other favorites on the card. All right, next fight on the card. We got, is it the Diakisi fight next?
I think so.
Oh, okay. That's not bad when Diakisi is the second fight on the card. We got Mark Diakisi minus 190 against Raphael Alves plus 160. I'm looking forward to this fight. I think it's going to be a fun one. We could see a finish on either side of it, which would obviously score well on DraftKings. But which side are you going with?
Yeah, look, Raphael Alves is a guy, he's very experienced. This is going to be his 30th professional fight. He's got a nasty guillotine. He hits like a truck. And, I mean, you look at his UFC debut versus Damir Ismagulov, and I'll tell you this right now, Kyle Marley, Damir Ismagulov is never going to forget the night he fought Raphael Alves because that third round, for a guy who's got a reputation for being a gasser, Raphael Alves put it on Damir in that third round, had him wobbling all over the place. It's just, it's hard to win fights against a guy like Damir. So I expect Raphael Alves to come out here and put on a good show. It's just, Diakisi, speaking of paying dues, he's paid his dues inside the octagon. He's fought a way tougher competition. He's going to be the faster guy here, the more athletic guy. It's just I'm hoping that the mental catches up with the physical. And if that's the case, then I expect him to come out here and win this decision.
I would agree. I think the talent is definitely on Diakisi's side. Alves is aggressive, and he's a finisher. He can get a knockout here or, grab a guillotine choke. But I think if he doesn't get the finish, he's just going to lose this fight. And Diakise can get a finish as well. He's more likely to get a knockout rather than a submission. But I think he's the better wrestler of the two, and he could land some takedowns, spend some time in top control. But I think the knockout is what we are targeting here if we're trying to get a high score from Diakise. I think if Alves wins, whether it's a knockout or a submission, he's going to score well. So he's definitely in play because that's his path to victory, in my opinion. But I'm not going to force him into lineups, that's for sure, because I am picking Diakise to win. We got fight goes to a decision, minus 165 here. And I would just favor Diakise quite a bit in a decision here if you told me this was going all 15 minutes. The worry would be how much he scores on DraftKings, but I will take some shots with him. I think that's a worry with a lot of the favorites on this card. And he's a lot cheaper than some of these other guys. So give me Diakise to get, probably 30-27. I think he can win all 3 rounds here. And the sweat would more so, I think, come early in the fight when Alves is throwing the hardest, has the tightest squeeze in his arms, whether he can get a rear naked choke or a guillotine attempt. But if he doesn't get one of those, give me Diakise to kind of pick him apart throughout the fight. Next one on the card, we got Courtney Casey, minus 240 versus Lyanna Jojo, plus 195. Break this one down for me, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is the price on Casey, minus 240. You're not going to come out here and lay minus 240 on Courtney Casey. She's just unreliable. The takedown defense has never been there, and then questionable decision-making in fight. But one thing about her is she's tough. Even in the fight she loses, they're always hard-fought decision losses. She's beat a higher level of competition. She's beat girls like Angela Hill. She's finished Randa Marcos in the first round. Whereas Jojo, I mean, she's a beautiful young lady. It's just that when you're getting TKO'd by Sarah Moras, and then the supposed improvements you made is getting your face smashed by Miranda Maverick, it's just like, when you talk about like Russians, it's like they're all really good, but then there's always that one bad one like Kadis Ibragimov. Well, when you talk about the Georgians, they're all pretty fucking good, but Jojo is probably at the lower end of the totem pole. It's just I can't lay no minus 240 on Courtney Casey, so I guess it's dog or pass, but I ain't interested in putting money on Jojo, so let me just sit back and enjoy it, I guess.
Yeah, for DraftKings, I mean, Jojo's probably got to get a submission to win this fight either way. I don't think she can wrestle enough to get a decision on the ground against Casey, and I think Casey's going to pick her apart on the feet. Casey does score well when she wins. I believe the lowest she has scored is 84 DraftKings points on one of her wins. She's 8,800 this weekend. 84 could get it done at that price, but she also has 100-point upside if she's able to get a TKO here. If Sarah Moras can get a TKO over Jojo, then I think Casey can as well. Her biggest weakness is being put on her back here, and if Jojo can do that, maybe she can have some success. But Casey has submissions as well. I think she would be okay if she is taken down once or twice, and I don't think she would be looking for takedowns of her own. At least I hope not, because I think she should be able to ride this out on the feet pretty easily, maybe get a TKO, probably score around 10x if she's able to get a decision. But I'm more so on the Casey side. I won't X Jojo out of my 150 player pool because, I mean, she's somewhat live in this fight. But with my hand builds, I really don't see me getting any exposure to Jojo because I don't see her having any success really unless she can pull off a submission. But yeah, not one I'm looking forward to betting at the betting window either. You don't want to trust a 500 fighter at those kind of odds. All right, next one on the card, we got Sean Woodson, minus 335 versus Colin Anglin, plus 260. We got pretty much a pure boxer here with Woodson. He's got solid volume, but that's not going to get it done on DraftKings at his $9,200 price. If he's not going for takedowns, he doesn't really have one-punch knockout power. I don't see how he pays off that salary, even with the high volume that he throws here. But how do you see this one going down?
I mean, he could. This kid Anglin's coming off a knockout loss. I feel like that fight kind of exposed him and showed that he's not quite ready for the UFC level. Woodson knocked out Terrence McKinney. He dropped Julian Erosa. So I actually wouldn't write off the possibility of him coming out here and teaching this kid a lesson. And I just feel like Anglin needs to go back to the regionals, get a little bit more seasoning. He's not quite ready for these fights he's taking, man. And Woodson, yes, he's developing. Yes, he's green. But look at the guys he's been in there with, man. Knocked out Terrence McKinney, been in there with Bochniak, been in there with Arosa, been in there with Yusuf Zalal. Like, these guys are on a different level than Colin Anglin. And while Colin Anglin's a tough kid, you got to give him credit. He's just not ready for the UFC level. So give me Woodson to come out here, put on that boxing clinic, and possibly get a finish too.
Yeah, I do agree that Woodson probably gets the win here. I do think that he's just so much better on the feet. He'll be doubling up Anglin on the strikes. But Anglin's path to victory is going to be higher scoring with the potential to grapple here. If he can land takedowns on Woodson, that's really the way he's going to win this fight. I don't see him scoring well that way, but if he can rack up, 3 or 4 takedowns in this fight, get 4 or 5 minutes of top control time, land some strikes down there as well, and he's probably going to score more than 10x. So I'm okay with some Anglin here. But I just don't know that Woodson can get there without the finish. If he gets a finish, then sure, maybe he can. But we got him plus 225 inside the distance. That's just not something I want to take too many shots on. I would like to get up to max, of course, if I can. But if I'm really struggling to find somebody in that top range in GPPs, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to X Woodson out of my player pool, I don't think. But at the same time, I don't see me clicking on him with my hand builds. I would rather get to some grapplers instead, people with higher chances of finishes. Anglin, I think he is in play in all formats. If this fight goes all 15 minutes, he'll score okay with his floor on the feet. So he's an okay cash game punt if you want to go that route. But we definitely don't have to force him into any lineups if you want to fade Anglin. I think that's okay because I am picking him to lose here. This next fight is going to be much more scary to fade, though. This is one I'm looking forward to. Should have a banger here with Miguel Beza minus 145 against Chaos Williams plus 125. Break this one down for me, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't know who's going to win this fight. I just know that both these studs are going to be in the top 15 one day. This is an amazing matchup. This is the kind of fight where, I mean, I don't be surprised if they score highly, but just I kind of want to sit back and enjoy this one, man. I don't want to have to root for a certain side when I feel like both guys have so many paths to victories. I mean, you got Baeza with the calf kicks, with the big hands, with the black belt in jiu-jitsu. But then on the other side, Chaos Williams just has that horsepower. He's got the wrestling background. His durability is off the charts. So I see this being chaos, man. And I said chaos, no pun intended. It's tough because I could really see it going either way. So usually in spots like that, I take the dog. So even though I think Baeza has top 10 potential, and I'm not going to be surprised if Baeza wins this fight, I'm going to slightly edge Chaos because I think Baeza might get hit a little bit too much, and Chaos is not a guy you want to get hit against. So give me Chaos reluctantly just because of how much I respect Baeza.
I dig it. I think if this is a striking match, Williams can win that one. I think he can definitely crack Beza in any round as well. He can break the slate with a first round knockout here. We have seen Beza take some shots before. Looks a little bit chinny, but he comes back. I don't know if you're going to be able to come back if Williams hits you as hard as he can. So I'm definitely cool with some Williams shots here. I like him as an underdog. I'm going to pick Baeza here, though, because I think he can do the same thing on the feet. His kicks more so. I think he can slow Williams down as the fight goes along with his leg kicks. I think he can take this fight to the ground, score well that way, maybe get a submission. So I just think Baeza has more ways to win this fight. He can score well in all those ways. So he's my preferred choice, but I don't like him so much that he has to be in my lineup. If I'm filling the rest of my lineup out, and Baza's already in there, but I have to move down to Williams to get up to somebody else that I like more. To go from Woodson to Holloway, then I'm cool doing that. I'd rather have the Williams Holloway over the Woodson and Baza, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely cool with either side of this fight. It'll be in most of the lineups I create because I feel like we don't need the judges in this one. And if we do, Baza still can score well if he's going through the ground. I don't know that Williams would score well in the decision win here. So that's another reason I like Beza more. But I can't wait for this fight. It should be a good one. Either guy could go to sleep in round one, and that would end up on the optimal lineup. So I'm going to be loading up, but probably going to end up with more Beza lineups. I haven't made my lineups yet, so don't quote me on that. Maybe I'll end up with more exposure to Williams just because of the prices. But in my head, I feel like I'll have more Beza. But either way, I'll be happy if there's a finish because I should have an overweight exposure on both sides, I think. All right, next one we have, in my opinion, a striker versus grappler matchup because the best path to victory for Calvillo here is going to be through the ground. Best path to victory for Lee is going to be through the striking, but Calvillo minus 135, Lee plus 115. You agree with that line, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I mean, look, both fighters are adequate everywhere. It's just pretty clear where their strengths lie. I mean, Cynthia's gonna have the edge on the mat and Andrea on the feet. The thing is that Andrea got taken down 5 times against Montana De La Rosa. Andrea got taken down 4 times against Roxanne Modafferi, 2 times against Lauren Murphy. And with Cynthia, she's one of these ladies that she gets on top of you, and there's a chance that round's over. There's also a chance she finishes the fight. I mean, you saw what she did to Marina Rodriguez. You see what she does when she gets on top. So I think she gets on top of KGB Lee, who I've seen taken down on multiple occasions, and she at least wins the decision, but don't write off the possibility of a finish either. So give me Cynthia Calvillo to get it done. But if she decides that this is the fight where she wants to test her stand-up, things are not going to go well for her.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the worry would be that she does test her stand up here, and she probably doesn't get blown out of the water on the feet. But I don't think she wins it there either. She's not going to score well. She doesn't have knockout power. So while she's standing, she's just not going to be putting up points really. But her path to victory on the ground could score well, whether that be a submission or just winning all 3 rounds through the grappling. That can score well also. And she's only 8,200. So I do like Calvillo on DraftKings really in all formats. She's my preferred play here. But if she does want to test her striking, Lee can put up the volume on the feet. I think she can outscore her 8K price tag. So I'm okay with some Lee exposure as well. But I do prefer Calvillo in all formats, and I think she does get at least two rounds done through the ground. All right, next one we got Thiago Moises minus 265 versus Joel Alvarez plus 215. You think we got a high score from either one of these guys in a win if they don't finish? And how do you see it going down?
Yeah, I mean, look, top control and takedowns count for a lot. And I just think that in this fight, look, a lot of people are low on Joel Alvarez. I'm not one of them. I think that this kid kind of shows glimpses of being like a lightweight Cheeto Vera, where he's still early in his career, but you can see that this guy's a finisher. He's got the heart of a lion. He's super tough. He's opportunistic, and he gets guys out of there. He does his job. So I'm a fan of Joel Alvarez. It's just with Thiago Moises, we're talking about a kid that is just slightly ahead of him right now. I mean, we're talking about someone that's beaten guys like Bobby Green, beat Alex Hernandez, beat Michael Johnson, went the distance with Ismagulov, had to fight Beneil Dariush in his UFC debut. So it's just took down Islam Makhachev. It's just a different level of competition here, man. So give me Moises to get it done, but don't sleep on Alvarez down the line. I think he's going to take this L. I think he's going to come back. He's going to bounce back, and I think he's going to look better than ever in the future. It's just right now is Moises' time, so give me Moises to win a pretty clear-cut decision.
Yeah, I agree. Alvarez has a 6-inch height advantage, 7-inch reach advantage. He's got some solid chokes on the ground, but the height and reach advantage are really his only edges in this fight. I just think Moises is the better striker right now, the better wrestler, better grappler. So it is hard for me to see Alvarez winning here. I think Moises is the one that would score well in a decision win, but that would have to come through the ground because he's just not active enough on the feet to score well there. Alvarez has a 0% takedown defense. Maybe he'll just accept takedowns, hang out on bottom too long. Moises could score well that way. He could lock up a submission as well. So Moises is I can't say he's my preferred play, actually, just because I don't know that that's going to be his path to victory. If he goes out there and strikes, he could score 60 points in a striking decision and still win this fight. So I would definitely worry about that. Whereas if Alvarez wins, I think Alvarez is going to score well. I feel like it would be a finish, whether it's a head kick knockout or he does wrap up a guillotine choke, something like that. I think he's kind of a finish or bust type fighter in this one, unless it is a slow-paced striking match where the judges can go either way. But neither guy's going to score well in that. So I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with this one, I guess. I'm not going to have much exposure to either guy, but I could see me being more overweight to the Alvarez side because I don't think he's going to get any ownership this weekend. And since he's so cheap, it'll open up the rest of your lineups with really any other favorites that you want to get in there. But for me, I feel like this fight will be more so of a fade, and I'll take Moises to get a decision win. Okay, next one on the card, we got Song Yadong minus 130 versus Julio Arce plus 110. Should be a fun one. I guess we got a 15-minute, somewhat high-paced striking match. How do you see it going down?
Oh, I see this being one of the best fights of the night, man. I mean, Julio Arce made the right decision dropping to bantamweight. I mean, he was always competitive at featherweight. It's just slightly outsized, slightly outgunned at times. So now dropping to bantamweight, I think his skills are going to translate. He's 32 years old. He's flat out in his prime. It's just that this is going to be a very closely contested fight. And with a guy like Song Yadong, especially at the apex where there's not too many fans there, and the judges can hear the sounds of the shots. Song Yadong is one of the hardest hitters at bantamweight, and you're telling me there's no crowd there to mask the sound of these shots, and you're just going to hear that leather fly. So even if Julio Arce is getting off on more volume, even if he does have better technique, I just feel like the wow moments and the holy shit moments are going to belong to Song Yadong, and that's going to kind of aid him to win, to kind of edge out a close, hard fought battle of a decision. So give me Song Yadong, but I expect it to be competitive.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be somewhat competitive, but I give Yadong almost every edge in this fight. I do think he's the harder hitter, like you mentioned. I think he's the faster striker. I think he's the better wrestler. I like his footwork more as well. Arce might be the bigger guy, just coming down from the 145, but I don't even know about that. Yadong's pretty beast mode. He looks like a statue as well. I mean, this guy's got some muscle on him, and he's also the higher volume guy. I mean, Yadong has landed over 100 strikes on multiple occasions. I guess twice now, but that's something that Arce has not done yet. I feel like it would be 100 to 70 or so strikes on the Arce side, and that should go in the Yadong favor. We don't know what these judges are going to think, and I do think we see the scorecards here minus 200 to go to decision. So I don't think we're going to get a high score from either guy here, but I am going to pick Yadong to get the win. We can't avoid this one in DraftKings because Yadong was in a banger in his last fight, and he only scored, I believe, 73 DraftKings points. That's not going to get it done at his price tag, and I can kind of see the same score in this one if it does go the distance. So give me Yadong as my pick here, but I might not have either guy in my DraftKings lineups, especially if I'm hand building. I'm more likely to fade the Arce side, though, because I think Yadong's live for a knockout. I think he has higher volume. I think he can land some takedowns as well. And I'm just more impressed with Yadong. I think he has the higher ceiling in this sport. So give me Yadong to get, around a 70, 75-point decision win here. And whether that gets it done or not, I guess that's up to you guys to decide in your lineups, but I probably won't put that in too many of mine. All right, but next one, we got Felicia Spencer minus 320 against Leah Lexin. Spencer, I already mentioned minus 320. Lexin is plus 250. Spencer is someone I'm interested in because she has a path to a high score because she is a grappler. If I'm choosing between, Spencer and Woodson, who we were talking about earlier, I would just rather have the grappler who has a better chance of getting a submission than Woodson does of a knockout. And you just score more points when you're on the ground. So for me, Spencer is someone I'm looking to target because she has that good path to victory. But I don't know that she's going to use that path to victory because we saw her shoot or land no takedowns in her Norma Dumont fight. I don't even know if she shot for a takedown in that fight. So that is a worry here, and I think she could win this fight on the feet where she would not score well. But how do you see this one going down, Dan?
Firstly, thank you, Leah Lexin, for your service. Happy Veterans Day. But take that aside, she's been out 3 years. I was never really that impressed to begin with, MMA wise. Felicia via something on the mat. I mean, ground and pound, TKO, submission, decision. I mean, we can bring up that Norma Dumont fight, but I think you saw in the Aspen Ladd fight, despite how boring it was, Norma Dumont can stuff takedowns, man. So I'm not convinced Leah Lexin can. So again, give me Felicia Spencer to get back on track.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen Lexin in 3 years, so we don't really know what to expect here. But yeah, I just wasn't too impressed back then. I don't know that she has a clear path to victory in this one. I think it would just be a close striking match that she would edge out 2 rounds in if she does get her hand raised here. And I don't see any ceiling there. So Lexin's going to be a full fade for me. And Spencer, if she does have the best, most optimal path to victory game plan here, then she's going to take this fight to the ground. She can score well, whether that's winning with 7 or 8+ minutes of ground control time, landing some strikes on the ground. She could get a TKO finish that way. She could get a submission. Those would both score well. So I am interested in Felicia Spencer in all formats here, and I'd say she's one of my top plays on the card. Maybe a top 3 play on the card for GPPs, just ceiling wise. And then the next one, I think this is going to be a really good GPP fight here. We have Ben Rothwell minus 155 against Marcos Rogerio de Lima plus 135. I think it's going to be a good GPP fight because we have minus 200 that the fight does not go to decision. So that puts both sides in play for me. But how do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that Marcos Rogerio de Lima is the more physical guy. He's got nasty leg kicks. He can mix in takedowns. He's got good top control. It's just all I'm mentioning here are the offensive traits that Rogerio de Lima brings to the table. It's just the issue, Kyle Marley, is the toughness is not there. I mean, I've seen this guy tap out to stuff that's not even fully locked in over the years, over and over, whether it was the Krylov fight, whether it was the Antigulov fight. I understand he held down Maurice Green for like 15 minutes, but this is not Maurice Green. Ben Rothwell, he's slower than he used to be. He doesn't have his Flintstone vitamins anymore. But one thing about him is that he's an opportunistic comeback finisher. So, I mean, basically, I expect Rogerio de Lima to chop him down with leg kicks, mix in takedowns, land some big shots, and then hit a wall, fuck up, and tap out to a go-go choke late in the fight. So give me Ben Rothwell via a late opportunistic finish after Rogerio de Lima is looking good in the fight.
Yeah, I definitely can see that being the way this fight goes down. DeLima is the other underdog I'm picking on this card, though, just more so because I think this is somewhat of a 50-50 fight. I think he will look better early in the fight, so it'll be him winning the first 7.5 minutes and then losing the last 7.5. Maybe they give it to him on the scorecards. Maybe he can get that finish early in the fight, though, and that would score well on DraftKings. That would break the card really. So that's what I'm interested in. So is just the ceiling. Rothwell's getting up there in age. I mean, how much motivation is there at this point other than you want that win bonus, of course, but he's not going for the title or anything. So I doubt he's been
either is Rogerio.
Say what?
Either is Rogerio.
I mean, true. But I'm just saying that it wouldn't shock me to see Rothwell take a first round L here, and that's what would score well. I think Rothwell could get a first round finish as well. But if he gets a second or a third round finish, I don't know how well he scores. He is the favorite on this card. So I do think we need around 100 points from him if he is to get it done. So I'm just more interested in the DeLima side for that reason. I think he has a better chance of paying off his salary in a win. But I'm going to load up on both sides of this fight. I might be overweight to both sides, but on my hand builds, I'll be making it a point to get DeLima in my lineups because he's one of two dogs I'm picking to win. We need underdogs in our lineups. So he just fits well in mine. All right. We got the main events. Max Holloway, minus 760 against Yair Rodriguez. Holloway coming off one of the best performances in UFC history, where he landed 445 significant strikes. Just unheard of for a DraftKings record, I believe, of 209 points. But the Diaz brothers are jealous about that one. But that's super impressive. I can't believe that we would ever see a 200+ point type of performance, and it just proves that Holloway is the best boxer. He has the highest volume. This guy is insane on the feet. Do you think Yair has any chance here?
I mean, I think that he's got a chance to not allow Holloway to land the same amount of strikes as he did against Kattar. Reason being is this is a completely different stylistic matchup. I mean, we all know what Kattar brings to the table. He's a pretty decent boxer for MMA standards. It's just Max Holloway is a much better boxer for MMA standards. Whereas here, Yair's not going to stand in the pocket and trade punches with Max. He's going to move on the outside and have his dynamic kicking game. And you don't really know what to expect from Yair. I mean, he's got all kinds of kicks in his arsenals, his elbows, his spins. Like, you just don't know what's coming. Whereas with Kattar, you can game plan for that guy. You know exactly what's coming. Look out for that big right hand. I mean, you don't have to worry about takedowns with Kattar. You don't have to worry about kicks too much. You don't have to worry about spins, flash. You just have to worry about his meat and potatoes boxing. So I definitely don't see Max Holloway coming out here and putting up those kind of numbers against Yair. I would be shocked if he threw over 700 strikes against Yair. But that being said, Yair's style, and firstly, Yair is no hoe, man. I mean, look at the odds, bro. Okay, let's just talk about this for a sec. Holloway closed minus 150 against Cater. Now he's about minus 800 due to how amazing he looked against Cater. And you got to give him credit. I mean, he was already one of the best guys on planet Earth, arguably the best at featherweight. Yeah, and that's no disrespect to the champ Volkanovski, who was just phenomenal. But what I'm trying to say is that Max reached a new level. Max is elevating his game. Max is still getting better. He's not content to have 5 belts at home. He's trying to reach new heights. So you got to admire that. But the way that I see these two match up is that I think it's going to be competitive early. It's just Yair's style takes a lot of energy. And the last guy on planet Earth you want to get tired against inside the UFC's octagon is Max Holloway. So I do see Max kind of getting to him later on in the fight, but in no way do I think this is going to be like the Cater fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Holloway does win this fight. He's a better striker of the two, higher volume. He will be higher volume than Yair here, but he's not going to land 445 significant strikes. He probably won't even throw that many strikes. I think Yair will be trying to avoid the fight more so and staying on the outside, picking his shots, trying to land a heavy kick or something, because I think a knockout is what he's going to have to do to get this fight done. I just don't see how he's going to win the decision here. If he can get the knockout, sure, he could be on the optimal lineup, but I'm just not going to use any Yair Rodriguez lineups. I do want Holloway when I can get him into lineups, but I don't think we have to force him, and I think most people will. I think not only is he the most expensive guy on the card, but he will also be the chalk of the card. People will see that 209 points, and they'll flock right to it, and they'll throw him in there. But he scored 82 points against Edgar in a 5-round decision. That won't cut it. So I don't think we have to lock Holloway into lineups because we're not going to see that type of performance again. I do think he can dominate all 5 rounds here and still score 100-plus points, but I don't know that he's a lock for the optimal lineup. And just to be different from the field, I think we can get away from him. But for me, it won't be get away from him and go to the Yair side. It'll just be fade the fight because this is where 80+% of the ownership on the entire card will go to. But give me Holloway to get a clear 5-round decision here. I don't know. Actually, I think he gets a finish. As you mentioned, I just think he drags him into deep waters and gets a late finish, in the championship rounds. I don't know that Yair can take the punishment that Holloway can put out over the course of 25 minutes. If it does go all 25, I think he just makes it clear. But yeah, I'll take him to get a 4th or 5th round decision, and maybe he ends up on the optimal, maybe he doesn't. He's an absolute lock for cash games. You just throw him in there. You can stack the fight if you want in cash games as well. But Max is the first person you're putting into your cash game lineup. But I don't think we have to use him in GPPs. However, he is the best play on the card. If you can afford him, go ahead and throw him in there. If you want to eat the chalk, you just got to make sure that you're different somewhere else if you want to try and take down that 100K solo this week. All right, to end the podcast, we always do a kill shot pick where we give somebody who we think can end up on the optimal lineup. You have anybody in mind this week that might be somewhat lower on?
Man, I wanted to give Dolidze, man. Like, I bet him at plus 200. Like, I'm not saying that he was going to go out there and just starch this guy. It's just all his fights have been competitive. I mean, except for the ones where he ran through, Cadiz and he 30-26 to Rapoli. But, like, the other ones, the loss to Giles and the other fight he had were, like, competitive back-and-forth fights. So I was like, plus 200 Dolidze. Like, what's Doc has done? Besides headbutting, or unintentionally head clashing, that's the right way to say, against Kevin Holland. What's he done to be minus 240? But that's not happening. I have a bet on Kennedy, but I also don't necessarily know he's going to come out here and knock him out. So I don't know if that's going to be high scoring. So you know what? I'm not that confident on this, but give me Cynthia Calvillo to choke out Andrea Lee.
I like it. And like I mentioned earlier, I haven't built lineups yet, and I'm not sure exactly what I'll be doing with that fight. But I've been messing around with a single lineup all week. That's kind of what I do is I just mess around with a single entry, figure that out throughout the week. And Calvillo has ended up in that lineup more often than not. So it wouldn't shock me to see her end up in there. But at the same time, I'm like, if she doesn't go out there and grapple, I don't even know if she wins this fight. She definitely won't score well. So I don't know what to do with her, but maybe your kill shot will add some more exposure for me. I'm gonna have to go with Marcos Rogerio de Lima just because he's one or two underdogs. I'm picking to win, and he does have that 100-point ceiling with his early finish potential. I do think he'll look best early in the fight. Maybe get a TKO, a knockout on feet, TKO on the ground, a submission as well. Could score well in any of those. So I'll go ahead and take De Lima. Definitely no confidence in him even getting the win at all. But I think if he does win, he has a chance of scoring well in this fight. So give me De Lima as my guy. Good luck to you this weekend, Dan. Thanks again to all the veterans out there. Happy Veterans Day. Good luck to everybody listening. Hopefully, we will see some helmets at the top of the leaderboards. Good luck. We'll see you next time. We are out. Peace.
Happy Veterans Day.